Hello. My next guest is a member of the class of 2011 who was a student athlete and who played high school football and ran track. For the past decade, he has served Mount Carmel as a dedicated educator, coach, and mentor, and continues to make a lasting impact on the school community. He wears many hats, including English teacher, Studium head moderator, and football coach. Known for his rigorous instruction, he challenges students to grow into confident and effective communicators. He's also the driving force behind the house system here at Mount Carmel, which fosters integrated relationships and friendly competition while strengthening school spirit. My guest today is Mr. Haggerty. Mr. Haggerty, how you doing?
Good, Aaron. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Thank you for that very kind introduction.
No, thank you. Honestly, half of it was wrote in some type of Mount Carmel thing, honestly, and I got some of it from just research. But
Sure.
it was a good day today. It's been a good week. How you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Good.
Very well.
Good. As I said, we're gonna get into a lot of things, as that's a lot to impact to get through of who Mr. Haggerty is. So, Mr. Haggerty, the first question I got for you today, where are you from, Mr. Haggerty?
I'm from a neighborhood suburb of Chicago called Skokie.
Skokie, okay.
North of the city. I was born in the Rogers Park neighborhood. My family moved to Skokie shortly thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
So I was raised in Skokie, went to elementary and grammar school in Skokie. And then when it came time for high school, made the trek down here about an hour south every day.
Hour south.
Just about, yeah.
Wow, that's wild. That's really
Mm-hmm.
that shows how the Mount Carmel diversity is. Traveling. That's a trip.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in high school, there were few students who traveled farther than I did. But nowadays there's plenty of students who travel just as far, about
Really?
an hour or so.
So it kind of increased our kind of our different people.
Yeah, I
outside.
think so. I think
Wow.
when I was in high school, it was much less common to be the only person from your high school who attended Mount Carmel, or from your grammar school who attended Mount Carmel.
So you're the only person from. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, and I also think that it was more rare for students to travel as far as I did. I think it's a little bit more common these days for students to travel half an hour, 40 minutes every day to get to school.
Nice. So how did you get to Mount Carmel? What was that whole mindset? An hour drive? That's kind of
Well, I didn't have to do much of the driving. My dad worked at Mount Carmel for many, many years, and so he was working here when I was a student. So I rode with him every day until I got my own license, and then I drove myself a little bit into my senior year.
Very nice. So you're the only person from your elementary school. Was that kind of one of the biggest factors? Traveling, and your dad goes here. What was that kind of mindset?
In terms of choosing Mount Carmel?
Choosing Mount Carmel. Yeah.
Yeah, like many people who have a family connection to the school, it was kind of just always the thought that I would be going to Mount Carmel for high school. It's not like I didn't have a choice in the matter, but it was always very clear that that was going to be what my path was going to be, was going to Mount Carmel. And with my dad already making the trek every day, it wasn't that hard to just hop in the car with him every morning.
Okay, wow. What was the biggest factor, would you say, that was like in choosing? Was it family choice? That was kind of like that whole path?
Oh, my family's got a long history with Mount Carmel. My dad, like I said, taught here for 30 plus years in a variety of different roles. His father, my grandfather, is a graduate of the school back in the 1930s, along with his two brothers who also went here. And so we've just been connected with the school for a long time. I've been around the school since I was a baby. And so it just felt like the natural thing for me to come to Mount Carmel.
So how did it feel when you got to Mount Carmel and you knew that you were going to be kind of working alongside your father? Was that kind of, some people feel like, my dad works where I go to school at. So, how did that feel?
Yeah, I think that, certainly, there was some concern that it would be awkward. As an 8th grader coming in, I'd be lying if I say I wasn't, a little bit worried about that, particularly because, my dad wasn't just a teacher here. He was the assistant principal at the time. So he was, a very, visible person. But, I think it's, fairly common for people, especially at Mount Carmel, to have a family member work at the school. And so certainly I wasn't the first for that to happen. And
Yeah.
so, most people, don't think it's all that strange at all. And by the time that I was a senior and I actually took my dad's English class, it was really no big deal at all.
You took your dad's English class?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
I took AP English Literature and Composition with him as a senior.
Wow. So was it a challenge? Did he help you with like homework or something?
No, in fact, he worked very hard to make sure that other students did not feel that he was biased in grading or anything like that. In fact, he would have us write our essays under pseudonyms, so we had to make up a fake name and
really?
turn our essays in under a fake name, and then he'd grade it without knowing who was who.
Wow.
And then we'd reveal what our names were, and we'd get our grades after that. So
how did you feel about that?
I mean, I thought it was just a fun nod to the fact that I was in the class. I think people enjoyed coming up with their pseudonyms every time that we wrote an essay, and I have great respect for it as a teacher now. His awareness that some people might be concerned about bias, and his ability to combat that concern.
Wow.
So I thought it was a cool move.
That is a cool move. That's pretty. I like that. So your dad taught English.
He did.
And now you're teaching English.
Mm-hmm.
Was that is there a correlation that you had?
It's not like I set out to be an English teacher like my dad.
Okay.
When I graduated high school, in fact, I don't think that I knew for sure what I wanted to do at all.
Mm-hmm.
English was probably my favorite subject at the time, certainly the subject that I was the best at. And so I chose to become an English major actually before I even decided that I was going to go into education. I just knew that I liked to read and I was a good writer, and I thought that the skill set that one gets from studying English was broad enough that I could apply it to a variety of different career paths. And then once I got into education, then it kind of just became clear that this is the path for me.
And you felt that it was a need to come back to Mount Carmel, or was that the thing?
That wasn't the intention.
Really?
No, I got a call from John Stimler, actually, who was the principal at the time, when I was still in student teaching as a senior. Obviously, my dad had told him that I was becoming a teacher, and there was an English position opening at Mount Carmel, and he actually reached out to me.
Wow.
So I didn't necessarily plan on coming back to Mount Carmel. And it just so happened that he offered me the job, and I pretty much had the job before I even graduated.
Right. Wow.
So I ended up back here, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. That's wow. Okay. Did you ever see yourself? Did people see yourself as coming back as a teacher? Was that ever like a mindset?
When I was a student?
Yeah, when
here,
you were a student. Yeah.
I don't think that I thought that.
Really?
I don't think that people would be surprised, because my dad, of course, was a teacher here. I don't think like my classmates would be surprised to find out that I'm back here, but I didn't necessarily plan on it. That wasn't my intention. No.
Okay. Nice. So I hope you know the yearbook's here.
I do. Yes.
The yearbook is here, and the page that I'm on right now is superlatives, which we don't do here at Mount Carmel anymore. But we got superlatives. I don't know if you know this guy, Corey Minogue. I don't know if you remember him.
I do know Corey Minogue.
Shout out to Corey Minogue. It says most likely to return as faculty.
Yeah, he actually is related to Mr. Mike Minogue.
I could guess that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that and that's typically how it goes. Is that somebody who is maybe related to somebody who works at Mount Carmel gets that superlative very often. Yeah.
Okay, nice. All right.
My senior year, actually, I think it went to my friend Jack McKenna.
Okay.
Who does not have a relationship to anybody at the school, but who a lot of people thought might end up back here.
Nice. Okay. Now we're gonna go a little deeper.
Sure.
Now this is black and white. This is his junior year. I don't know if you can zoom in there. I'll show the people at home first.
Thanks, Aaron.
That's right there. Okay. I don't know if you remember this. Okay. Mr. Haggerty,
yes.
What was going through your mind right there?
I don't know what was going through my mind. I think that I had not yet discovered hair products, so I was still rocking buzz cuts.
Okay.
And I wasn't particularly yet very comfortable in my skin, so hadn't fallen in love with taking pictures.
Really?
Not that I can say I have to this day.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa. So you're not a picture guy?
Not a big one, no.
I like it though.
Yeah,
I like it.
I'm happy to be here.
That's
Yeah,
right.
thanks
That's
for the
right.
opportunity.
That's right. All right, cool. So that was 2010. He's not a graduate 2010. We're gonna get in 2011. Okay. This is when he was a junior, and we're gonna talk about something that happened junior as a junior. Junior Caravan Day. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
So how was that? What was that? Could you explain what that was?
Junior Caravan Day was a day that celebrated the rising senior class.
Okay.
So after the seniors graduated, which is usually in early or mid-May, the rest of the student body is still going to school. And there's a couple of weeks there where now that the seniors are gone, the juniors are the big men on campus. And so it originated as a way to encourage juniors to think of themselves as leaders. And so there was a day of school where rather than go to classes, the junior class would go on essentially a photo scavenger hunt downtown in the city of Chicago. And there was, they were split into groups, and each group was assigned a faculty member, and they were given a list of pictures to take or tasks to complete, each of which had a certain number of points that was available. And the goal was with your team to try to, get as many points as you possibly could. We all got a day of CTA bus passes, and we got a map of the city, and the idea was that the adults were really just supposed to supervise, and we were supposed to find our way around the city and have as much of an adventure as we could, and it was a lot of fun.
Now, guys, I hope you know that was no preparation. I have a set of questions that I usually give our guests. That was no preparation, and I've done my research on Junior Caravan Day. I don't know my camera. I've done research on Junior Caravan Day, and that was a great. I couldn't do that. How he just did that. Okay, but moments. I feel like that was a moment in Mount Carmel history, right?
For sure.
And
that was certainly is one of my favorite personal experiences.
Really.
And I thought that there was a period of time there where that was a really, really cool program that unfortunately went away because the people who used to plan it moved on to take other opportunities at other schools and things like that. But it's something that I always really enjoyed, and though I was never a part of it as a teacher, if I remember correctly, it was certainly one of my favorite experiences as a student.
Are there any other experiences that you favored as a student in Mount Carmel?
That's probably my number one favorite. That's the one that probably comes to mind most regularly.
That was crazy, really?
Yeah.
I guess that.
I had a lot of other great experiences, a lot of great teachers, but it's not so much a single moment that comes to mind as much as that, which is just one very clear day in my memory.
Nice. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to English.
Sure.
If you were not, this is not my question. I forgot who asked me this question. Forgive me, please. If you were not an English teacher, what subject would you be teaching if it weren't English?
That's a good question. I think even if you asked me as a high school student, I probably wouldn't have said that my favorite subject was English.
Really?
I probably would have said that my favorite subject is history.
Me too.
So I really enjoyed history. Just even outside of school, I had read a lot of books on history. I was, in particular, a World War II history buff. I was very much into my family history. Many of my relatives, both my grandparents and their brothers served in the Second World War. So I always really loved history classes. I definitely at one time considered majoring in history when I went on to college, but during my senior year and then in the transition to college, definitely started to gravitate toward literature and English classes a little bit more.
Nice. Okay, good. So this is a very personal question.
Sure.
If you didn't teach English, or if you didn't teach at Mount Carmel, would you be teaching at all?
That's a really good question. I think that if I hadn't come to Mount Carmel, I certainly would have been looking for a teaching job. Yes.
Okay.
So my choice to get into education wasn't just about Mount Carmel. Like I said, I had no plans to come back to Mount Carmel.
Right.
It just sort of happened that way.
There's the opportunity that you took.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I went to college, I initially decided to go into the education program just so that I had the option. You know, my dad was in education. My older sister was going into education at the time. My mom was working in a school at the time.
Wow.
And so, you know, I was, you know, aware that, you know, education might be a possibility for me. And so I wanted to just make sure that I had that certification in case I wanted to take the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't necessarily at that time, you know, planning on being a teacher. But you know, once I started taking education classes, and in particular during my sophomore year, when I had the opportunity to get into a high school classroom in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I went to school,
Mm-hmm.
I had a little mini student teaching experience for a couple of weeks, and you know, I was told that I did a very good job, and I really enjoyed it. And then, you know, from that point on, I was pretty much all in on becoming a teacher.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, some people say that you teach one of the hardest classes at Mount Carmel. I don't know if
Really?
you. Really, you didn't know that?
I guess I'm not surprised to hear that.
Really? Okay.
I would assume that that probably comes from students in my AP English
Yeah.
class. And I think what maybe is a more accurate statement is that it's hard to get an A in my class.
Okay.
I don't think that my class is particularly hard.
Okay.
Personally, I think that you know, I teach the AP English Language and Composition class. It's a writing class, and writing is hard.
Yeah. Right.
I don't think it's necessarily me doing anything that's hard as much as just the content is hard. I think it's equally hard to fail my class.
Okay. Nice.
So
I like that.
so I don't think that my class is particularly hard, though I can appreciate the sentiment that some students might express.
Okay. Is there a way that you teach since being you as a student and alumni at Mount Carmel that you kind of bring back to Mount Carmel as a teacher?
You know, I don't know if I could articulate, you know, what my teaching style is. You know, certainly I've been influenced by, you know, many of my own teachers, and then, you know, some of the different ideologies and strategies that I've, you know, encountered in taking education classes, and then through my experience as a teacher here at Mount Carmel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, certainly, you know, I've, you know, put a lot of thought into working at an all-boys school like Mount Carmel and trying to engage male students. But I don't know if I have a particular teaching philosophy or anything like that.
So you don't think you have a certain teaching style? Is that what you're saying?
I'm sure I do.
Okay.
I'm just not sure that I could articulate what it is.
Nice. Okay. Nice. Now, I'm sure you're aware of AI.
I'm very aware, yes.
Very aware. Okay. Would you say AI is changing the way that people might come in English or the way you teach, school-wide or technology? What's your reaction to AI?
Yeah, I mean, so I remember first learning about ChatGPT. It happened to be like right before an English department meeting, and so I brought it up to the English department. This was, you know, a few years ago, and nobody in the room had heard of it, and immediately we started playing around with it and realizing that, you know, it can do pretty much all of the things that we ask our students to do, you know, with the click of a button.
Yeah.
And that certainly, you know, was concerning at the time. And, you know, the understanding, the realization that, you know, there's no way that students don't know about this. There's no way that students aren't going to use this to do their work for them. You know, so I mean, certainly that, you know, I am concerned about AI, you know, for those reasons. You know, I understand that, you know, there's many great things and really incredible things that artificial intelligence can do. I think that you know, the trouble is that the technology has advanced so quickly in such a short amount of time that there are not you know, best practices in place. There's not, you know, a lot of research on, you know, how it is impacting students in education. I mean, because the reality is that there are many students, there are many people, you know, who use artificial intelligence to do everything.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and if they aren't using their own intelligence to solve problems or, you know, understand a reading, then I worry about their development,
Yeah.
and what they're able to learn. I mean, certainly there's things that AI will make obsolete that maybe very well should be obsolete. Like the fact that it can spit out a 5-paragraph essay on
Like that, right.
Macbeth pretty easily.
Yeah.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, why does it matter that any student can write a 5-paragraph essay on Macbeth? That's not really what matters. At least I've always, considered, the point of, the skills that we learn in the English class is less about the text that we're reading, and it's more about the ability to think critically and organize ideas and express oneself. And, I worry that an over-reliance on artificial intelligence will result in people not developing those skills.
Wow, thank you. That was good.
Yeah, sure.
All right, AI people, y'all better look out now, okay?
Yeah.
You lose some customers, all right? So, are you an AI user?
I have used it.
Really?
I don't use it to write anything that I claim as my own.
Yeah.
In part because I enjoy writing myself.
Right.
And also in part because, I ask that my students don't, so it would be hypocritical for me
Right,
to do
yeah.
so. The thing that I think that AI can be incredibly valuable for is as, essentially a robot assistant, to quickly give me information or to help me generate or organize ideas.
Okay. I like that.
A lot of
That's nice.
the kind of simple tasks that would take me a little bit of time that it can do so much more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly recognize the convenience of artificial intelligence. Like I said, my worry is just that the allure of the convenience is going to overshadow all of the, I think, legitimate concerns about its impact on society.
Wow. Okay. Now, besides AI, is there a different way that English is taught, or that you teach, or that you have been taught? Not just English, or just any type of teaching.
Oh,
that you say.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that you have a laptop in front of you right now is totally foreign to my student experience.
Yeah. Okay.
We didn't have devices, let alone smartphones,
Yeah.
things like that. All the work that we did was on paper by hand. We had to carry around textbooks, for all the information for all of our classes.
Glad I don't gotta do that.
And stop by our locker multiple times throughout the day. Yeah, so certainly that's the big thing. And so as a teacher, I find myself relying on it more and more because my students rely on it more and more. That doesn't mean that we never do anything, pen and paper or anything like that, but a lot more of what we do is centered around that device, and the internet.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't think it's inherently good or bad.
Okay.
It's different.
Yeah.
Certainly there's some things that make it a little bit more difficult for the teacher. A textbook doesn't have internet access.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You were never going to find somebody watching YouTube videos or
yeah.
their huddle highlight tapes
They crazy.
when I was a student. But you'll see that all the time now. You can instant message and text on a device.
I'm talking to right now.
Exactly right. So I mean, there's all kinds of more distractions
Yeah.
that students deal with that we didn't when I was a student. Not that there weren't distractions. I mean, certainly guys would still sneak their phones into class, and guys would be working on homework for another class underneath their notebook, and or back in the olden days having a comic book inside their math textbook. And that's always been the case. It's just so much easier now with technology.
Yeah.
So that's the big difference.
So it's always been present. It's just
For sure.
okay. It's a little bit more convenient. Okay, that's I can get behind that. Now we're gonna talk about the teaching style that's specific to you.
Sure.
You have a tennis ball.
I do.
What is that? Where did that idea come from with the tennis ball?
So I actually can't take credit for this because this tennis ball idea I stole from Mr. Burke.
Oh, really?
Mr. Burke was his first year as a teacher was my first year as a student actually. So he's been around Mount Carmel as long as I have and longer. And when I first started teaching, Mr. Burke was at the time one of our faculty experts on teaching male students. And so I, very early on in my first year as a teacher, attended a professional development where Dan Burke, went through some strategies for engaging students, and that was one of them. And that's something that I just kind of gravitated toward and thought I could do in my class, and I've been doing it ever since. And it has very much become associated with me.
Yeah.
More so because I don't think Mr. Burke does it that much anymore. But I've been consistent with it for the last 10 years, and I found that students enjoy it. And I've always said that I do think that it gets students engaged, or at least paying attention, because there's this green tennis ball flying in front of their face.
Yeah.
It's hard not to notice. And I mean, if there's anything that is my signature or part of my teaching style, it's that tennis ball.
Nice, I like it. Would you say there are any other ways that you try to cater to Mount Carmel, the all boys setting?
For sure.
Okay.
One of the things that we have always talked about when it comes to engaging male students is, trying to do multiple distinct activities
Okay.
in a single class period, not to do any one thing for too long, because that's when you end up with students, zoning out and giving you that, 1,000-yard stare. And I think that's probably best practice for any students, but in particular, I've tried when teaching boys. I always try to do 3 things in every class period. So rather than do one thing for 40 minutes at a time, I try as often as I can to have 3 distinct activities. And it'll typically start with a do now, bell ringer, something quick at the beginning of class. Right. We'll move on to something else after the first 5 or 10 minutes. And then we'll try to get at least one more activity in there as well. So it keeps things fresh. It mixes things up. It allows you from a teacher's perspective, it allows you to cover a lot of stuff, and you just got to make sure you're moving quickly. And I hope that from the student's perspective, it keeps things from getting too boring ever.
Yeah. Did you ever feel that as a student at Mount Carmel, like kind of bored or whatever?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you're still a person,
Yeah, we've all had classes that we found boring, or had to study things that we weren't particularly interested, or even in your favorite classes had to read a book that you didn't particularly enjoy or whatever. So yeah, for sure. There's absolutely been times that I've been bored in class.
Well, I hope your students know that Mr. Haggerty is a human. Okay, that was one of the questions that they asked me to ask.
Yeah.
That's good. Now I'm gonna go back to kind of Mount Carmel as a whole. Would you say there is a specific thing that kind of gets you up to come to Mount Carmel every day? Like, full force, as a teacher, as a coach,
I think it's just the desire to do a good job.
Okay.
I care about what I do. I think that my job is worthwhile. I think maybe not necessarily, the specific content, like, every poem that we read in my honors freshman class isn't the most important thing in the world, but I think the skills that we develop in my class are important. I want to do a good job helping students to develop them. I enjoy teaching, and I enjoy coaching football. And I want to do a good job at those things. And so it's just the realization that there's a job to do, and the desire to do a good job at it is what gets me up in the morning.
Nice. Now you talk about football. That was like a small minor thing. Let's talk about that a quick.
Sure.
What got you into football? You played football at Mount Carmel, correct?
I was on the football team.
Okay.
I can't say that I played all that much.
Oh, okay.
I was not a standout athlete by any means. I was a predominantly special teams player on the varsity team my junior and senior year. But I've loved football for many years. I really enjoyed being a part of a team. Football is the ultimate team sport. I believe.
Yeah.
And so I liked being around it. And even though I wasn't playing, I was able to find a role, that I felt was, just as, connected to and important to the success of the team. Like I said, on special teams, and as a scout team player, prepping our defense during practice. And even though I didn't go on to play in college or anything like that, I definitely felt the desire to stay close to the sport. And so when I got that call from Mr. Stimler to come back to Mount Carmel, it wasn't long after that I was expressing my interest to start coaching.
Nice. Okay. Now we kind of talked about alumni as a student. Is there some type of mindset that you had, or kind of mindset that you had around football? Like, you played football, or you kept on the football team. And some people are like, back in my day, it was tougher. But that kind of have that kind of mindset?
I don't know if I've ever been one of those guys.
Okay.
I was the head freshman football coach
right.
for a few years. And I had the experience of being a freshman at Mount Carmel, and I could certainly speak to my own experience when introducing new students to Mount Carmel football. I think more so than suggesting that it was tougher back in my day or anything like that. I would more so just be telling guys that I'm not going to ask them to do anything that I didn't do myself, that I don't know is possible because I've done it myself. Whether that's carrying bags out to Jackson Park every day, or running gassers at the end of practice. Just kind of explaining to them that this is a part of the experience of Mount Carmel football, and I and many of the other coaches have had that experience, and it's their turn.
Nice. So would you say there is a moment, maybe phrase or lesson, that you've experienced in Mount Carmel in football and on the team that that still kind of carries with you? You
mean like a saying or something like that? There's tons of them.
Yeah, no, it is.
Football specific. There's many. We use that acronym WIN. What's important now? The idea about focusing on the task at hand and not looking too far ahead into the future. The idea that Mount Carmel football is a we thing, not a me thing, right?
Okay.
It's not about the individual. It's a team sport and team goals, and not doing anything for personal accolades, but for the success of the team. And then one of the ones that I always remember, Dave Lenti, who was the defensive coordinator for many years. He one of his sayings was always that you don't ever want to sacrifice a long-term goal for short-term gratification. So you remind yourself that sometimes you got to sacrifice things in the short term because you got a larger long-term goal in mind. The freshmen, when I coached them, I would repeat all the time, fun is doing something well. That's how we define fun.
Nice.
Yes, I got a ton.
You do got a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. You can make a book about it. Okay,
absolutely.
Good. Is there a moment that you liked from football that was the favorite?
A single moment. I remember I think it was the state semifinal game.
Okay.
My senior year, we won the state semifinal to go on to the state championship game. Unfortunately, we ended up losing, so my memories of the state game are not as happy. But I remember that winning the semifinal game and knowing that we had the opportunity to go play in the state championship game was just a very happy memory. And in particular, I remember leaving Gately Stadium after and finding my family in the crowd and just celebrating this opportunity, particularly because at that point it had been a few years since Mount Carmel had played in a championship game.
Really?
So
wow.
It was
that's kind of unheard of now.
Well, yeah. Now the times that we're not playing are few and far between, but back then it had been a little while.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Now, Mr. Haggerty, I don't know if you're aware of the rumor surrounding your game day mindset or the game day that you have.
I am not aware of this.
So, I've seen this before. Some people say that you do a pre-workout before every game.
Are you talking about like taking a drink, a pre-workout, or
no,
like doing a workout?
Like a workout.
Yeah, I do. I if I can, I try to get a workout in. I mean, it just so happens that, when I was on the varsity staff, we played many games on Friday nights.
Yeah,
and so
that's when the workout. Okay.
Yeah,
time.
and so
Okay.
if I'm going to be around here until 7 o'clock at night, I might as well
I
do
got
something.
You.
So I can either come in before school and get it in, or I can sleep in a little bit and
All right.
do my workout after school.
They were saying, for good luck, get.
I mean, it's certainly a part of my routine.
Okay, nice.
Even with now that I'm coaching with the sophomores as the offensive coordinator, if we're playing a Saturday game, I'm certainly going to get here early Saturday morning and get my workout in. And it's just it's what makes me feel good, makes me feel ready for the game.
Nice.
It's definitely a part of the routine.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't aware that as many people had taken notice of that.
Yeah, they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, okay, Mr. Haggerty's in there. The game's about to start. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So were there any emotions when you first came back on the field as a football player, as a coach? Were there any hey, I'm back? What was that kind of? What was the emotion?
So I don't know that when I first got back, that I was, I don't think it was any big memorable moment or anything like that. When I first started, I was just an assistant coach on the sophomore team.
Okay.
I coached the wide receivers and the defensive backs. At this point, it was 7 or 8 years ago, so it's quite a while ago. But more so when Coach Lynch got hired and asked me to be the head freshman coach. That was when I really took a big step in my football coaching journey, because whereas in the previous years I was really just kind of an assistant, I was just kind of helping out.
Mm-hmm.
I took on a much more active role as the head freshman coach and the play caller. I had to learn a whole new offense and all that kind of stuff. And so I remember, I distinctly remember my first game and being very, very nervous about,
Really?
managing the game and calling the right plays
Yeah.
and winning, which we didn't. We lost my first game.
Okay.
But we ended up having a successful season and being conference champions in the end, so that was all great.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a difference between the way that you carry yourself as a teacher and as a coach?
I am probably, I guess, maybe students would disagree. I'm probably a little bit more intense as a coach.
Okay.
Certainly I can get a little bit more loud.
Yeah, right.
On the football field.
It's the moment for it, right? Yeah.
Than in the classroom. I think the biggest difference is you recognize that in the English classroom there are certainly going to be some students who are only there because they are required to be there.
Yeah.
That not everybody's favorite subject is English. Not everybody is thrilled to be reading a poem or writing an essay. And so you understand that, and your expectations are realistic, that that you're not going to engage everybody all the time, and that some guys are going to not be very good.
Yeah.
And, not be paying attention, all that kind of stuff. But I've always felt that you don't have to play football.
Yeah, you don't.
And if you're going out to play football, that you've chosen to be here and you've made a commitment and you have a job to do. And so I have very high expectations of the guys who play for me, and I know that they want to be successful, and I want them to be successful, and I'm going to hold them to that.
Nice. So would you say that same expectation is in the classroom, or?
For sure.
Okay.
But I don't. Whereas on the football field,
It's kind of like a want that you kind of signed up to do.
yeah,
Nice.
Theoretically, you want to be here, and you want to do well on the football field. I know that not everybody cares to be in English class or cares whether they do well, so I don't take it personally. I don't get upset. But on the football field, you and I both want the exact same thing.
Yeah.
We want to win. We want to score points. And so when we're not doing the things that we need to do to get that done, I'm gonna let you know.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys got that sign from that, Kim Haggerty. So One thing that's obviously unique to Mount Carmel is our setting. And what I mean by that, we got Catholic setting, we got the all boys setting, we have the not the diversity at Mount Carmel. Is there one major one that you kind of pinpoint to Mount Carmel specifically?
Yeah, I mean, and I would gravitate toward the diversity, and not just racial diversity,
Right.
Because I mean, actually, my grammar school was actually more diverse than Mount Carmel in terms of the different number of backgrounds.
Okay, wow.
I mean, I would say that we are predominantly white, black, or Hispanic.
Yeah.
Whereas at my grammar school there were upwards of 60 or 70 different languages spoken at home among my classmates. Wow. We had an incredibly diverse neighborhood.
Wow. Okay.
But the thing about Mount Carmel that is really, really unique is the diversity in terms of experience. And that's because we've got guys who come from all over, from every zip code, it feels like, in the city and in Indiana.
Yeah.
We've got guys whose families make millions of dollars, and we've got guys whose families struggle to make ends meet.
Yeah.
We've got guys from incredibly wealthy neighborhoods. We've got guys from just down the street. We've got guys who take an hour plus to get here. We've got guys who get here on the train, guys whose parents drop them off.
That's a lot.
We've got so much diversity and experience, and there's such a great opportunity for students who come to Mount Carmel to get to know guys who they never ever would have had a chance to meet if they had just gone to their neighborhood public school. Because the guys that they get to meet have had such varied experiences, there's the potential for them to open up their worldview and understand people a little bit better. I mean, certainly that was my experience. Coming to Mount Carmel is I'm not a South Sider. I'm not. Despite my family having a long history with the school, I wouldn't consider myself a part of like the South Side Mount Carmel community.
Yeah.
And coming and being a part of that and getting to appreciate it and understand it better. It's a whole different world. It's a whole different experience. I had friends who lived in Indiana when I was a student here. I had friends who came from as far north as Wilmette and the southwest suburbs. And just so you just had this incredible opportunity to meet people from diverse experiences and interact with guys with different perspectives and just expand your world.
Nice. So is there a way that you teach because it's so diverse, or is it like is it just like the normal?
I guess I don't assume that there's any one experience or perspective.
Okay.
I try to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a single way that I try to teach or anything like that, but certainly it's a level of awareness that you try to have, understanding that the guys come from different backgrounds and have different experiences. Some guys have had great grammar school English experiences and are well prepared to take your English class, and other guys maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Some guys have enjoyed it and some guys haven't for one reason or another. Some guys have a lot of family support at home and others don't. Just you try to keep all that in mind.
Nice. So I talked about all boys, like very minor. Now you went to Mount Carmel, so you kind of don't. Was your elementary school co-ed?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of have the co-ed, and I'm guessing your college was co-ed?
It was.
Okay, so you kind of have like a broad view a little bit. Elementary, high school, all boys, go back to college, and you're back to teaching it at all boys. Is there anything that you learned while working with all boys?
Anything that I learned while working with all boys? I don't know if there's one thing that I've learned or anything like that.
Okay.
I had the experience of student teaching in co-ed schools.
Okay.
And all of my teaching experience has been at Mount Carmel. In some ways it's very different. And
Yeah.
In some ways, Mount Carmel is unique. Not just because it is all boys. Certainly, that's a part of it. But in many ways, Mount Carmel is just unique because Mount Carmel is unique.
Yeah. Mount Carmel.
And in a lot of other ways, there's not too much different from teaching at a co-ed school versus an all-boys school.
Okay.
Like I said,
Nice.
The strategies that I think are best for teaching boys probably are good for teaching co-ed classes as well. I just think that they're particularly important for engaging boys because when you have a classroom full of boys, some of the difficulties that come with teaching boys are magnified. But there's challenges when it comes to classroom management and student engagement, but it just forces you to to be a little bit more on top of things, and I think that's all of that is applicable to any school classroom that you end up in.
Nice. So I'm gonna go back to the student,
Sure.
all boys. Was that ever a factor in your mind? Some people are like, I can't do it without girls. It's all boys. Was that a factor in you?
I don't think I particularly minded it.
Okay.
First coming to Mount Carmel, certainly it's not like you're gonna have much of a social life, meeting members of the opposite sex if you're going to an all-boys school, and certainly if you're traveling as far as I was to school anyway. But the reality is for me in high school, that probably wasn't going to be the case even if I had gone to a co-ed school.
Okay.
Some of us take a while to develop into ourselves and
Me too.
to
It's all right.
mature and to feel comfortable and all that kind of stuff. So, I think that the benefits of coming to an all-boys school, certainly outweigh any concerns about, not having girls around. And, if guys are worried about, their ability to, get a girlfriend or something like that, by coming to Mount Carmel, they're going to be just fine. There's probably not going to be much difference between their experience here or there.
Nice. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back to Mount Carmel, specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to go back to this yearbook.
Sure.
This is your yearbook, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I got a picture of him smiling, by the way, guys. I found a picture of him smiling. So, what would you say a person gains by coming to Mount Carmel?
Yeah, so I mean, from the student perspective, absolutely, I think probably the most important thing is that in addition to that diversity of experience, by coming to Mount Carmel, you are doing something that is different. It is almost by definition more difficult. Almost every student who attends Mount Carmel is passing up another school on their way here.
Mm-hmm.
It requires getting up earlier to catch the bus or the train or to get dropped off before your parents go to work. It requires a commute. It requires sacrifice from a family, both financially and the commitment of time. There's a lot that makes coming to Mount Carmel difficult. And that's we've never shied away from that. It's we say that if you care to struggle and work at it, that's
right
a part of it.
Yeah.
And so anybody who chooses that, or any family that chooses that for their son, I think is setting themselves up to develop into a person of character, right?
Yeah.
Because by forcing yourself to do something that's a little bit hard, you are developing and maybe maturing, hopefully, in ways that your classmates who stuck around in their neighborhood school don't have to.
Yeah.
So I think in addition to like the diversity of experience that you get to encounter, that's the big thing is you're growing as a person by doing something a little bit harder.
Nice. Would you say that kind of is similar to teaching? I know some people say like they kind of had a new mindset working in Mount Carmel. Mm-hmm. Would you say that kind of mindset, hard work, comes back as a teacher too?
Yeah, I think it's. Certainly it's relevant to Mount Carmel and our, our community. I think it's a Catholic school thing.
Okay.
Anybody who's
Nice.
who's making the choice to teach in a Catholic school probably is not doing so just for the money.
Yeah, right.
Most people would have opportunity to make a whole lot more money at a public school. Depending on where you're from, you're probably passing up a lot of jobs at other schools to come to Mount Carmel. So I think it's the same. Certainly there's some people who are just taking the job to take the job, but the people who stick around for many years, have clearly made a choice. Most likely because they care about the school, or they love the school community, or they love the opportunity to work with the people and students that they get to work with.
Nice. Okay, nice, very nice. So Mount Carmel, do you think there's a favorite moment, whether it be in teaching, the classroom, being a coach, working around Carmel? Is there a favorite moment for you?
I don't know that I could identify a
Yeah,
single one.
right. I can't either.
I have really enjoyed, many of the classes that I've taught over the years. I've really enjoyed, many seasons of coaching football, as well as coaching track, which I coached for a couple of years.
Oh, did you really? Wow.
I did. I was the head track coach for 2 years.
I didn't know that. Wow.
I've met some great people who I consider to be close friends. So I don't know if I could off the top of my head identify a single.
Yeah,
one,
right. Yeah, okay.
But certainly there's been many experiences that I've enjoyed.
I like it. Now, you can say no to this, right? Is there anything about Mount Carmel, if you could, that you would change?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if any one particular one comes to mind.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll ask me a question about this in a second. I have introduced this idea of the house system to Mount Carmel this last year. And I would really like us to go all in on that.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a student teacher, I had an experience at a school that organized itself by houses. In addition to just kind of organizing their students that way, like we do now, their faculty and staff were also organized by house, and met regularly and collaborated together. In fact, there was a period of every school day that the different teachers of the different subjects in each house got together and talked about their students, and talked about the upcoming schedule, and just worked together. And so I would just love to see us find a way to be as collaborative as that school was.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that student teaching experience. I think a lot of people would enjoy teaching in that format as well. And this house model that we're putting together for the students, I think could be really valuable for faculty and staff as well.
Nice. So did you have that experience while you were at Mount Carmel? I know you say as a student teacher.
It was as a student teacher. So
Okay.
When I was in college as a senior, I had to teach for a certain number of hours in the public schools up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And one of my 2 teaching placements was at a school that was on a house system.
Okay.
So Mount Carmel had never been on a house system. The Studium program existed, but not the house program. And so that was my first experience with that kind of organization.
Nice. So how would you say people's reaction to it is?
Here at Mount Carmel, you mean?
Yeah, in Mount Carmel.
So far, I think it's been overwhelmingly positive.
Okay.
I think there definitely was some hesitance on the part of students when the idea first got introduced.
Yeah, something new. Yeah.
That it's new, it's
Yeah.
different. But I think that students have really enjoyed the competitive aspects of it. I think getting the intramural program back organized into studiums and competing against the other houses has really excited students and engaged people. So I think generally it's been a positive response, and certainly I've enjoyed what we've done so far, and would like to see it continue to develop.
Nice. So you kind of explained this a little bit, but was that your long-term vision for the house system? Is that the way that you explain it?
Yeah, I laid out an idea for a multi-year development of the Studium program around this time last year to Mr. Tabernacki and some other members of the administration, and some of it we've already accomplished. Generally, what we wanted to do was we wanted to organize the student body into 4 houses, one for each of the main floors of the school building and Graham McCarthy, and do all of our kind of in school competitions, whether it be fundraising or intramurals or spirit competitions, all of that, organize it through those houses and mix up freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, give them opportunities to interact and build relationships and form kind of an identity within the school. So we've got many ideas that are all rolled into this house program.
Yeah, nice.
Some of which are still to come.
Nice. Okay, good. Now, I did not put these on the question list.
Okay.
Okay. These are. I did this in my last episode with transfer students coming soon. Now these are rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just gonna ask. All right. All right. Mr. Haggerty, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I am deeply introverted.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. All right. What word would your friends use to describe you?
My friends would probably describe me as serious.
Serious.
Mm-hmm.
The friends think you serious.
Yes.
Okay. Can I? I'm gonna adjust a little bit. How would your students use it to describe? What would your students use to describe?
They might do the same.
Yeah.
I think that some people think that I am too serious
really?
sometimes, including some of my friends. And while that's certainly not always the case, that might be the word that they use to describe me.
Nice. So you got anything to say about that, or like an explanation?
No.
Okay. Good.
No,
All right.
I definitely. Sometimes I am serious. Sometimes I take.
You embark it. I like it.
I take myself too seriously. Certainly, all those kind of things.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Personal question. Are you sweet or salty?
Probably I would lean salty.
Salty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nice. If you had a theme song coming to school, what would it be?
If I had a theme song coming to school,
yes.
What would it be? That's a really good question.
Yeah.
It might be. Caravan by Van Morrison.
Yeah, right. That's a good song. I love playing it too. It's a really good song to play. Okay, cool, nice. Is it have anything about
I mean, it's just the connection to the school's team,
right.
Of course, and it's the song that plays after home football games. So it's just a song that I enjoy and am thinking about on my way to or from school.
Yeah, it gives I don't know.
It's a fun song.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, it's good vibes.
Nice. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm an early bird.
Early bird.
I get to school most days around 6 a.m.
Whoa, I did not know that.
Yeah, I work out in the mornings before school. So my alarm goes off at 4:45 in the morning.
That's crazy, Mr. Haggerty.
Yeah.
Whoa, 4 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. 4 o'clock. You here at 6?
I'm usually here by 6. Yeah.
Okay, can I ask working out maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Are you grading grading papers?
If I'm coming in early, it's either I'm working out in the weight room or I'm doing some schoolwork, preparing for classes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Great. If you were the world leader of something, what would you be?
I was the world leader of something. I might be.
Tough question. I found this in a game. Yeah.
It is. It's a good question,
Yeah.
though. I mean, might be. I mean, I'm not because I know that Coach Lynch exists, but I might be, among the world leaders in minutes of game tape of football.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, you watch a lot of, okay.
Watch a lot of film, whether us or other teams, yeah.
Wow, okay, good. If you were a sandwich, what sandwich would you be?
If I was a sandwich...
I don't know if you heard this question before.
They
usually ask the shadows.
I have heard this question. This is famously the question that Mr. Antonetti asked on one of my first days of Honors English 1
Really?
my freshman year. Yes.
Whoa, wow.
I believe this question he still uses to this day.
Nice.
If I was a sandwich, I might be a tuna melt.
A tuna melt. I've never had it, Mr. Haggerty. What is a tuna melt?
Just it's a hot tuna sandwich with some cheese on there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, cool. All right, now that's yearbook.
All
Yearbook. All right, so we should do a comparison and contrast. I got to find a page in this. I want you to look at this one. You're smiling at this one. Look at that.
Sure am.
Right
yeah,
there.
Yeah. That's my senior picture.
You just, what was the emotions?
Happy to be there.
Happy to be there.
Dressed
Nice.
up all nice, it's your senior picture. You try to
Yeah,
look nice
nice.
for your mom.
Cool. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, good. All right, good. Mr. Haggerty, that concludes the episode.
All right.
Yeah, that was really nice. You're a really good talker, Al. So
Thanks.
I hope you guys
interviewer,
know.
Aaron.
I hope you guys know that I put these questions in full review. Okay, I usually like make the questions like when I'm passing period or something, but these questions I had to. Did I spell what right? Did I spell? Did I put the right punctuation and everything? Because Mr. Haggerty, I'm not gonna say he's a stickler, but he's an English teacher. I don't want him correcting me. Okay, that question. You know what I mean? So this is a lot of this is great. Is there anything you want to say to the Mount Carmel community?
No, Aaron, I think that this podcast is awesome. You do a great job with it. Very impressed with the whole operation here.
Yes.
Appreciate the opportunity. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you. All right, Mr. Haggerty.
Of course.
All right, so I want to give a shout out to Mr. Wyatt Knight. He's producing right now. Lucas Rios, our co-producer. Miss Minky, who's our director. Mr. Paul Berg in our theater club, who's practicing outside right now. And Model UN Club, I'm sure I'm pointing to a blank wall, but it's fine. Model UN, they're having a meeting right now. So yes, thank you. Mount Carmel, thank you. Love is what love does. Thank you, Mr. Haggerty. I know we did it like 3 times.